Hello, this is Gio, and look at what we have here. This is a VCR. And not only is it a VCR or video cassette recorder, this is an ancient one. This is a 1979 JVC Vidstar VCR. To be precise, let me see, this is a HR6700U Vidstar. I believe this is probably the second generation Vidstars that they had. The earlier one I think came out in 1977 or 78, I forget. But so I do have this thing and I'm going to be working on this today. So I've been playing around with this thing and it does power up. You can kind of see the back here, and I don't really have a plug for it, but I've had to kind of make do with a little kind of hookup scheme I made up for it. But it does power up. It does kind of rewind and fast forward, but when it comes to playing, it just doesn't seem to want to start moving the tape. And so I have opened this up and I kind of discovered some belt issues. Very common in VCRs. If they don't run, it's probably a belt. And yes, indeed, I found one particular belt, and actually two belts that need some work. So, but first we're going to open up this top here and just kind of show you what it's doing and what it's not doing. Now, in the more modern VCRs, if you can call them modern, they're pretty much obsolete anyway, but usually you would take off the top by, usually there's some screws on the side here. In this case, for this Vidstar, there are two screws right on top, so I'll just start removing those. Two. And so it should just lift up. I might actually hit the eject button to help this process. And the top just sort of wiggles out like that. And so you just be careful removing like that. So I turned it around so you can see somewhat better, and you can see that it's completely packed with electronics. Now, the newer models of VCRs, like from the 1990s and 2000s, when you open them up, they're almost empty inside. It's mostly air, and what's taking up all this space is all the electronics. Now, later VCRs, basically all these electronics were condensed into some microchips and just kind of scattered around. So electronics really got a lot smaller, and so you open up a modern day, or if you can say a modern day VCR, since they don't really make them anymore, they're mostly empty, but some components remain generally the same. Okay, so I'm going to put down this little cassette, let's see, well, maybe I should eject it. And this is kind of in the way right here, but you can kind of see the head drum right there. Now as this spins, that's what records or reads the video. There's a audio head over here which reads the sound, and there's a recording head over here, and then there's these little slide kind of these little side guides. So when you put down the tape, these little guides should pull this back and actually bring the tape around this head right here, and some other little components move so the tape's in contact with the audio as well, etc. So I'll go ahead and turn on the power to show you that it does indeed work. The lights come on, etc. There's a little light inside here where the tape goes on. We'll go ahead and hit eject. And I'm going to show, I'm just going to place in this little tape here and put it down. Now sometimes in some VCRs, when you actually put in the tape, the guide arms engage and will loop the tape around the heads, etc. But in this case, we actually have to hit play. Before we hit play, I'm going to just hit rewind, and also fast forward. And although it's making a lot of noise and squeaky noises, you can see it does work. But now when I hit play right here, what should happen is those guide arms should come some other components move around, so it kind of loops the tape around. But that is not what happens. You can kind of hear some motors running, but it doesn't really move. Now when I hit stop again and try to fast forward again, things kind of don't work. So the act of hitting play sort of moves things around, but sort of screws things up at the same time. Now I'm going to hit the power off again, turn it back on, and see if actually the rewind works again. No, so everything's kind of screwed up now. Now again, I've already kind of looked around inside here. There are a couple of little tiny belts in here which I've already replaced, but the belts I'm interested in are actually on the other side. So I'm going to very carefully take this and flip it upside down. And I'm going to take off the back. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws that I have to take off. And I'll do that now. Okay, with the screws taken off, this should just kind of slip off. Should get these little washers here. And put this on the side. Now, what I'm interested in is actually behind this little board. And to take this board off, this board actually flips out of the way. And there's 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, that I have to remove before I can flip this out of the way. Now again, I've already sort of fiddled around with this VCR. I couldn't find any instructions or specifications or drawings of this thing. So for each step that I've done here, I've had to just kind of experiment very carefully, take things, unscrew things, and kind of look what's behind it, etc. And if you're doing this for yourself, just be very careful as you move things around. Just make sure you don't lose parts. Sometimes when you move plates like this, other things kind of pop out of the way. So just kind of be careful of what you're doing. And as you can see right here, you could just see right there, the one belt of interest just fell off. And I could kind of move this out of the way like this. I might have to prop that with something. Hold on. Okay, and there you go. I kind of propped it out of the way. And I want to zoom into that one belt that clearly was not attached. And that belt was right here. Now this actually helps operate the head. So this belt is connected to this little motor here, and this is what drives the head up on top. And initially it was kind of spinning, but then it stopped spinning because this belt is not really holding on very well. But believe it or not, this belt was kind of like here. Let's just put it back on for now. Kind of like that. And as this motor spins, it moves the head. But unfortunately this is not really holding on very well, and it tends to slip off because it's nice and loose. So that's one of the problems, but that's not really the problem causing the mechanism issue. That is this belt right here, and so I'm going to have to remove a couple more components. All these other smaller belts here, now they weren't giving me any problems, but I've already replaced those with smaller belts. But I didn't have these larger belts, so I had to order them. And I did get them just yesterday. So I'm going to first remove this plate. I think that's the only plate I have to remove. And it's 3 screws. Again, when I first removed this plate, I had to do it very carefully, making sure that I don't break what I'm trying to fix. Aside, and then this plate just comes up, and now just like that. And so I don't really want to touch that, so I'm just gonna put this aside carefully as best I can. Maybe just prop it up like that. And so this is the belt I'm interested in. Now there's a motor here, there's a little pressure plate right here, which drives this little component right there, which drives this huge mechanism there. And all of that combines and kind of connects with many different gears here that sort of moves everything, including the guide arms. It moves some of the other heads in certain positions, but everything kind of relies on this larger belt here. And I know it's the belt because when this motor moves and when this component here turns, the belt actually slips. So this is spinning, the belt is slipping, and this doesn't move. So I'm hoping if I replace this belt, everything will start working. Now, so when I took this apart before, I had to measure these belts. And basically what you do is you sort of squish them together, you measure how long they are, and then multiply it by 2 to figure out its general circumference. I also took some calipers, measured the width, the thickness, etc. And then I tried to find these belts online. And it was quite difficult. These VCRs are not manufactured anymore. These belts aren't manufactured anymore. And I was having a really hard time. And I couldn't get the exact fit for either one of these belts. But I got things that are close. And here they are. I haven't even opened them up. So this is the smaller one, this is the larger one. Now the larger one I think is a little wider but not as thick, but we'll see how it fits. We'll start with this smaller one. Okay, so this is mostly a weight, and so this belt actually fits underneath like that and then loops around this larger wheel on this side here, and just make sure it's all in place. And it seems to be stable, and hopefully that will be tight enough. Now for the next belt. Now just carefully taking this belt off. Have to move a little plate here. Don't want to force anything out, just carefully take it out. Now this is the old belt, and this is the new belt. It's slightly wider, just by a tad. The thicknesses are fairly comparable, and their sizes. The new belt is just slightly smaller than the old belt, and that's good because you want it tighter. And so we'll go ahead and fish this one back in. Like that, and around here. Seems like it's stable. So with that in, I will replace this little plate here. Now, unfortunately, these two larger belts were not cheap. One was like $8 and one was $9, so I'm really hopeful that these will actually do the trick, especially since they weren't the perfect size. But we will see. And just reverse everything we did. Let's take this down carefully. Oops. And then replace these screws. And then we'll go ahead and replace the base. Okay, so we're all ready for the trial run. We'll go ahead and power it up, make sure it lights up. And it does. There's a little light down there too. We'll grab our tape, stick it in. Let's just start with fast forward again, make sure that works. And sure enough it does. You can see the head spinning, so that belt seems like it's holding on. That's a good sign. It seems like it's going well. We'll hit stop. We'll go ahead and rewind. Rewind tends to be a little louder, but it's working just fine. The head is still spinning. But both those were generally working before. Here's the big play test. So when I hit play, hopefully those guide arms will loop the head with some tape. So we'll go ahead and hit play. And yes, indeed, you see those guide arms. You see the the recording and the audio heads move in, and it looks like it is playing. The tape is in contact with the heads, and you can see the tape spinning at a reasonable speed. We'll go ahead and hit stop and see if it still works. And yes, it retracted just perfectly. We'll hit rewind. Yes, it works. We'll hit fast forward. Works. And play one more time. Beautiful. And then stop, and it retracts. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is put the top back on and plug it into my TV and see if I could actually get a decent image out of this thing. So that's the next question. Mechanisms are one thing, but decent audio and video is another. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I went ahead and plugged it into my little Sharp TV right here. It's a flat screen, but we'll go ahead and try some Star Trek. Let's go ahead, let's see, it's already on. We'll go ahead and turn the TV on. I already adjusted it to channel 3, which is the proper one. Put it in there, see what happens. So hit play. Oh, something's happening. Oh, look at that, it has a... Oh, something's weird. It's like in fast forward. There's so many little controls on this one. It's not like the simplest VCR. Look at all this stuff. So how do you adjust the thing? Oh, let's see, speed. Oh, that did something.
We're getting a top brass send-off.
I guess that's there's a speed control here too, right there.
Right, Scotty?
Looks like
That way, will, Pat.
I think I have tracking.
Let's talk. Sure.
That looks a little bit better.
Ready. Aye, son. All due respect, sir, I hope this isn't some kind of Starfleet pep talk. I'm really
Sound is pretty good. You could actually adjust, if you look right here, you can adjust the speed control a little bit. I'm not sure.
Executive officer. Temporary grade reduction.
It doesn't seem like it's doing much there, but hey.
You personally are assuming command?
It actually works.
May I?
I'm impressed. I'm not sure when the last time this thing was on.
5 years out there dealing with them.
And there you go. It seems to work just fine. Just a couple of replacement belts and it is operational once again. There's a couple of things I still have to do. I have to replace a little switch here, and I have to eventually deal with that cord issue. But and I may include those with future videos. But for now, I hope you had fun, at least watching me kind of fiddle with this old VCR. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.